I will be talking about how Steinbeck uses Rose of Sharon to emphasize themes in Grapes of Wrath. Now you may be thinking, Scarlett, I have no idea how to respond to that. Luckily, I'm here to help you. The things I'm not going to tell you about are what happens with Grapes of Wrath, who Rose of Sharon is, and what the Dust Bowl is. Hopefully you know that already, so I'm not going to bore you. But what I am going to look at is the importance of being altruistic in these conditions, how life and death are the same thing, and how being in a family is very, very important in Grapes of Wrath. Now first, altruism versus self. For those of you that don't know, this is selflessness versus selfishness. And we can look at this as, we can look at the laws of the migrant camps. And this can be the rights of the sick and the pregnant to transcend all other rights. Now, this can be seen that it may not benefit the entire group to let those who are lesser, who won't necessarily benefit the group, have more rights, but because they are altruistic and that's what helps them survive, that's what they do. Now first I'll be looking at Rose of Sharon and her very selfishness at the beginning of the novel. Now here you can see on 123 that her thoughts and actions were very inward. She thinks only in terms of reproduction and motherhood. And by seeing Rose of Sharon in this light, you can see she's very selfish, and she only thinks of herself and not of other people. In here, we can see that she was very, on page 165, she's pleased with herself. She complains about things that don't matter. She demands services of Connie that are very silly. And this part is very important. The world had drawn close around them, and they were in the center of it. Rather, Rose of Sharon was in the center of it, with Connie making a small orbit around her. Now, if you look at this gives you the imagery, because of diction, that Steinbeck's Rose of Sharon sees herself as the sun. She is the giver of all life. She is the reason why the universe exists. And this is selfish. And that's a picture from a play where they did Grapes of Wrath. And that's her and Connie. Another. Ma took the cup and set it on the window ledge. Don't none of you touch that, she warned. That's for Winfield. I ain't had no milk, Rose of Sharon said sullenly. I ought to have some. I know, but you're still on your feet. This little fella's down. Is that much good and thick? Now here you can see that Rose of Sharon's own brother is very sick, and she's still only worried about herself. Another example. Now here I'm looking at what made Rose of Sharon change. What made her go from this very selfish, immature, and naive young girl, which is probably why Steinbeck used her in the first place, to this altruistic, saint-like woman. Al and Aggie Wainwright are going to get married. Now when this happens, we notice that Rose of Sharon, she goes into the bushes. She's very, she almost has this change of heart about everything that she's been doing. And she realizes that even though she doesn't have Connie anymore, that life goes on, and life has to go on, even if you don't have your husband. And in this last part, you can see, and she felt the weight of the baby inside of her. And she thought, instead of about herself and herself being pregnant, she thought about the kid that was inside of her that needed to thrive. And now I'm going to look at altruism. Rose of Sharon rolled heavily over and sat up. I'll get right up. Usually, Rose of Sharon is very slow. She doesn't ever want to do anything that anyone tells her. But in here, she's going out to pick cotton, even though she's about 8 months pregnant because she had a kid early. So we can see that after she was told about Aggie and Al, and she had this change of heart, she's suddenly become this very altruistic person. And now I'm going to look at life and death, and how life and death are the same thing. And I say this based on this quote right here from Ma Jode. And they's a time of change, and when that change comes, dying's a piece of all dying, and barren is a piece of all barren. And barren and dying is two pieces of the same thing. So life and death are the same thing. And we know in Grapes of Wrath that whenever Rose of Sharon's baby dies, and then she ends up nursing this man, that greatly exemplifies this. But what I'm going to look at is this part that I didn't really notice until I read again. Connie loosened the blanket from the load and covered himself and Rosa Sharon with it, and with the heat they struggled together and held their breaths. Now, if you look at the diction based on this, I'm pretty sure that her and Connie are having sex. But if you look right here, and Ma said over and over, "All right, it's gonna be all right," and said to her hoarsely, "You know the family's got to get across, you know that." Ma Jode is talking to Grandma, but Grandma already knows this, so why is she telling her this? The family had to get across. I told her when she was dying. So when Rosa Sharon and Connie were performing an act of creating life, Grandma was dying. And this proves Ma's statement that life and death are part of the same thing. And Connie and Rosa Sharon know that. And Rosa Sharon said softly to Connie, "She was dying right when how do we know?" He reassured her. So they know that this happened, and this proves to Rosa Sharon that life and death is part of the same thing. Now I'm going to look at how having a family is very important in Grapes of Wrath. Now, Ma said, "Rosa Sharon, like a good girl, go lay down with Grandma. She needs somebody now. She's knowing now." Rosa Sharon got to her feet and walked to the mattress and lay beside the woman, and the murmur of their soft voices drifted to the fire. Rosa Sharon and Grandma whispered together on the mattress. This is on 186. Now, if you look at this quote, this may not be what you consider to be important, is to be with your grandmother, but her grandfather just died. Grandma is just now realizing that she doesn't have her husband anymore, and she's very sad. So I think that with Steinbeck's choice of being a good girl to go be with her grandmother, that being with your family whenever they're in their time of most need is very, very important. And with all of these people like the Jodes that are going through these circumstances that are very difficult for them, it can get very rough. And the one thing that they can't have taken away from them because of money, in theory, is family and being together. And her and Grandma whispered together on the mattress. She did what she was told, and she went and she was with her grandmother whenever she needed her. If you look right here from page 454, got no husband, got no milk. Rosa Sharon, she's very upset. She doesn't have Connie anymore, and she doesn't have any milk that she's going to have for her baby and for herself, to her baby will be healthy. And she's very nervous, and she doesn't know what to do. But if you notice, she says, "got no husband" before "got no milk." The fact that she doesn't have someone to get food before she can get her own food is the fact that having a husband is very important, because they're the person who supplied you with your needs. Now, look right here. What is the answer to this question? How does Steinbeck use Rosa Sharon to emphasize these themes in Grapes of Wrath? You're still thinking, "Scarlett, I still have no idea how to respond to this, but luckily, I know what to do." And this is my conclusion. I will answer my question and tell you how Steinbeck does this. By using Rosa Sharon in themes, Steinbeck shows the interconnection between the themes. These interconnections emphasize the themes presented. Having a family is very important, but for the members to live, you have to be able to put and think about others before yourself. This is very evident when the Jodes have roles in the family that are altruistic. If it weren't for these altruistic roles being performed, the family, which could be the migrants in general, would not live on. And you can see this is very evident whenever Rosa Sharon, after her child has died and has been drifted away, is supposed to be buried, but whenever she is breastfeeding the dying man, it's life of her giving that man life, the death of her child, but her giving life to him, the altruism of her giving the only thing that she has, which is her milk, and the importance of not only being there for your family whenever they need you, but for other people around you when they need you. And thank you.